Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And another week of NFL is finally in the books. We're a quarter of the way through the season, roughly, give or take, and which is wild to think that the season's gone by that fast. But we're going to recap everything you may have seen or missed from week 4 of the NFL slate. So, Tim, are you ready to go?
Lightning round. Let's run it.
Again,
About
no.
as lightning round as we can.
It's never going to be a lightning round. Quit calling it a lightning round.
But we can try.
We can try and fail. Anyway, let's start off with the Thursday night game where the Detroit Lions took the Green Bay Packers behind the woodshed in Lambeau and kicked our ass 34-20. It was a absolute bloodbath, and on every level. The Lions defense was better than the Packers offense, and the Lions offense was better than the Packers defense. I mean, the Lions even kicked our ass on special teams. It was brutal, and there's really not much more to say about it other than the Packers being an incredibly young team and the Detroit Lions being very, very, very good in every phase of the ball. And I will make this claim about the Detroit Lions. I think they are clearly the third best team in the NFC and ready to make the claim for 2 or 1 if the Eagles or 49ers slip up. Like, watching the Lions run over the Packers at Lambeau convinced me of that much, because this is a complete football team. And if you try to convince yourself of anything else, you are a darn fool. So that's what I got on the Lions. But I'll let you give your take before I absolutely rip into my Packers.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for the Lions is I think the difference maker that we've seen right now is the fact that they have a complete run game. Like when with David Montgomery healthy, when they're using him a lot, he has looked very good. They found the end zone a lot with him. I still think they should use Jahmyr Gibbs more.
Take
But their
last week with a grain
has,
of salt, please, in the run game.
Yeah. But it did, look good, and they have been able to have success on the ground, and I think that opens up their offense more. The big thing is their defense also continuing to play well, and obviously they did have some hiccups, and I mean, giving up 20 to the Packers is not necessarily a bad thing, but they certainly could have played a little bit better throughout. But yeah, on the Packers side of the ball, which I know you're about to get into, one of the things, I mean, I know we talked about a little bit during the game, but this was still a manageable / winnable game until that Quay Walker penalty jumping over the line.
Until Quay Walker being undisciplined and like jumping over the center has been something that you're not allowed to do for how many years now, and he still did it. And yet that is another critical 15-yard penalty that made the game a 2-score game with 8 minutes to go to out of reach when the Packers got the ball 2 minutes later. That was a game-changing penalty. As far as my Packers go, let's start with the good. The third quarter, they looked great. When they protected Jordan Love was fantastic. I understand everybody's super quick to jump on him about like how bad he looked. He only had a QBR of 7, which, I mean, whatever. But hey, his completion percentage was high, right? That is my backwards way of saying I don't give a damn about your completion percentage. You can take your completion percentage and shove it up your ass. That stat is for nerds and losers. So if you're using completion percentage to determine how good a quarterback is played, I strongly suggest you rethink some things, because Jordan Love has played 3 very good games of football and 1 not great game. Pretty iffy. Yeah. But then again, there's a big old checklist of things that I want the Packers to fix, because there's 11 days between the Lions game and the next matchup on Monday night versus the Raiders. There's a few things that I want them to fix. Yep. First thing you need to fix, offensive line. Jordan Love had 0 time. And there was like a tweet that I saw. It was like, translation, like, when Jordan Love has no time, he's bad. Congratulations. Welcome to any quarterback in the NFL, including Patrick Mahomes. If you give them no time, they're going to look bad. You have to protect your quarterback.
They're going to make mistakes.
And especially on the interior with guys like Royce Newman, and Josh Myers being a turnstile, you can't have that. You need to do a better job up front. Getting Elgton Jenkins back relatively soon, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, will really, really help things. Next thing, and this is kind of in that same vein, a running game. The Packers have been terrible at running the ball.
That's what I was going to say for them and that offensive line is going to make a big difference in that. Is it hurts them both in the passing game and a running game, which proves why offensive line is just that important.
But Aaron Jones has been on a snap count. They didn't use him at all. And it seems like the same song and dance with Matt LaFleur. It's like, hey, we need to run the ball more. Hey, you call the plays, get the ball in Aaron Jones's hand. And we've talked about A.J. Dillon's struggles. They haven't gotten any better.
Yeah.
And I will say the solution to fixing the running game is not bringing in James Robinson, because we did work him out. And first of all, we don't need another running back. Second of all, James Robinson has been cut by 4 NFL teams. If you bring him into the Packers, you're going to make it 5 very, very soon. So like you gotta look in a different place. And even like if your run game isn't going, just use it a little bit, because Jordan Love has been excellent out of the shotgun and in play action. So there's that. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you have to work on the run defense. And that starts by taking Joe Barry and chucking him across the border into Canada. Get him out, welcome to the XFL, get ready to learn whatever language you want to learn that's not English, because I swear to God, if Joe Barry is my defensive coordinator for another full season, I will lose it. Nothing has changed. Like you said, the running game, like for the Lions looked good. And granted, it did. Congratulations, Joe Barry again.
It's not saying much against the Packers. Yes, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, no, that is not said much, especially with the talent on this defense. And Matt LaFleur has said, like, oh, it's insanity doing the same thing again. Hey, do something different. You're the head of this football team. Do something different. There's also that. You have to be more disciplined. I understand it's a young team, but you cannot be committing 100 yards in penalties every single week and expect to play winning, consistent football. It can't happen, especially on special teams. I expect a Rich Bisaccia-led unit to be better and not commit these stupid holding penalties and blocking in the back when you have an all-pro kick returner that can, like, he hasn't shown it yet, plays. But he can house call it. It seems like whenever he gets good blocks and good lanes to run in. So if you just keep,
he's due for one.
He's absolutely due. That's got to be another thing. And just on the offensive side of the ball, going back, Jordan Love has not been great in these the first quarter. And then it seems like
it's off to a slow start a little bit.
And then they tweak it in the second half. And then in the third and the fourth quarter, he's brilliant. And part of that is you need to simplify the offensive concepts early in the game, get Jordan Love into that rhythm, because there was definitely some nerves.
Let him find his rhythm and then let him go and do his thing.
There was definitely some nerves there in the first half where it didn't look great. And the criticism of Jordan Love from NFL fans is completely skewed and completely biased, because they're used to seeing the Packers have generational quarterback after generational quarterback. And when it finally hits the fan, doesn't even have to be bad, has to be mediocre. See, I told you, bust. He's not good. The Packers didn't get another one. When meanwhile, Jordan Love is either on par or outpacing everything that Aaron Rodgers has done in 2008. That's what a lot of people don't realize. And Aaron Rodgers did it with guys like Donald Driver, Greg Jennings at his disposal. Yeah, Jordan Love doesn't have anybody over his second year to throw to at wide receiver or tight end. So this is a young group anyway, so you're going to have to let them grow. For the Packers, these growing pains will happen. We have to expect them. Rodgers in 08, I understand that, like, I keep going back to 15 years ago, but that is legitimately the comparison. They went 6-10. Tim, you and I both had them at 7-10, so we did not expect them like a 2-2 after 4 weeks playing teams like the Lions and the Saints and the Falcons. Look, I'll take it.
It could definitely have started a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. Jordan Love could have been a bust, like a actual bona fide bust, not a media
and regardless
bust.
Regardless of what record we predicted them to have, we both predicted the growing pains in the first half of the season. So as of right now, they are following the similar conceptual trajectory that you and I said of, there'll be some pains in the first half of the season. And then in theory, based on what we said, is he should get better and, things will start clicking more. So if that's the case and you're 2-2 right now, you're on a better track than both you and I really projected them to be anyway. So
yeah. And like, if you really think about it, Stokes came off the PUP list. Jair is on track to play. Get the guys healthy. It should be fine. I'm not too worried about it. I do have a bone to pick with NFL pundits and media and jabronis that just don't quite understand, that want to rush to headlines for clicks and yahoos or, whatever.
You'll always have them.
Shut up about my quarterback. I'll kill you. Not actually, but like,
for legal reasons, that's a joke.
Yeah, for legal reasons, that is a joke. just stay the course with the Packers. Next week, the Lions will go play the Carolina Panthers at home. That should be a fun drubbing for the Lions. And like I said, the Packers have the Monday night game in Las Vegas, so you have a lot of time to make the adjustments, regardless of whether Jimmy G or Aiden O'Connell plays. I'm looking forward to watching Jair Alexander match up against Devontae Adams for the first time since we traded Devontae.
That'll be very interesting.
That'll be super fun. But we got to move on to what the heck happened in Chicago? The Broncos.
There was some good.
There was some good.
And then there was a lot of bad. For an entire fourth quarter.
A 28-7 lead evaporated before the Bears' very eyes, and they lost 31-28 as somebody had to win. The Bears thought they were going to get their first victory. The Broncos got their first victory.
A good portion of the game. And Justin Fields threw the ball well.
See the title of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, he did. He had a field day. But, I mean, I think the big thing that, obviously, if you go back and look at our predictions, I was optimistic about the Bears. The biggest thing that I didn't see is the consistent poor performances from this defense. Like, what I was projecting improvement from the offense. I wasn't expecting this bad of a defense game in and game out. Like, we should not give up 31, much less, your however many points it was in the fourth quarter. I think it was 24 for the Broncos. Like, that's just I
think we got to tamper our expectations.
It's unexcusable. Well, I get tamper, but like, they made moves. They have guys. It's not like they don't have anybody on that defense.
Wow.
Defensive line, not great. The linebacking core, it's new, but it isn't. I mean, it's obviously not Roquan Smith, but it is better. And their secondary still should be decent between Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker. Like, they're not that bad. You have the guys. They just can't do anything with them.
Let me say this. I am not surprised that the Bears defense is as bad as it is, especially after you let your defensive coordinator walk, right?
Yes, but you also have again, supposedly the defensive head coach that's supposed to, fill in for all of that and was known as a defensive coordinator.
Oh, I agree. It's completely inexcusable. But
so if he can't help run a defense of guys that is not, piss poor, then what is he there for?
I think the biggest indictment of that Bears defense is trading away Roquan Smith for a second-round pick, who was a guy who was a leader on the defense and is arguably the best linebacker in football, and picking up Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, who were not number one linebackers in their respective teams before coming to the Bears, and I think were a large product of the systems that we're in. And you gave them big money. So because you gave them big money, you expect them to play well, but they haven't played well. And so now everybody's going up in pitchfork.
TJ Edwards, one of the problems though is TJ Edwards is very much like a run support linebacker. And some of the issues that I've seen is him getting torched in pass protection or pass covering.
I will say this,
like, he is not, he is slow.
An interesting statistic is I think PFF's two most highest graded linebackers are Roquan Smith and Nicholas Morrow, former Bears.
Yeah.
So what does that say about the Chicago Bears?
That we don't make good decisions as a franchise? That's known.
And also, like, about the secondary, Eddie Jackson's banged up. Kyler Gordon, I believe, has missed time. Tyreek Stevenson, he's a good corner, not a one, not yet.
Even Brisker has been a little bit banged up, but he's, as far as I know, he's healthy now, but he has been banged up a little bit through these first 4 weeks. But I guess I don't know. It's just frustrating because it's again a team that seems like they have. It's not like this team has no talent. It's just that they don't know what to do with the talent they have, and the talent that they did have, they got rid of.
I'm gonna switch topics a little bit about the Bears because it has to be addressed. Chase Claypool.
Notice how their offense plays well when they tell him to sit on the couch.
Well, you also played statistically the worst defense of all time by DVOA. I mean, that
doesn't have anything to do with Chase Claypool, though.
I mean, it doesn't matter that the defense you played gave up 70 points the week prior. I mean, that's not, we're not going to take that with a grain of salt. But I mean, it is positivity from the offense until the fourth quarter. Justin Fields setting passing records in Chicago, which I didn't think he'd do.
Whoa.
Khalil Herbert ran for over 100 yards. DJ Moore had a touchdown catch that was not a touchdown because he didn't get the right foot in.
Yeah, I got to be honest. When I saw the replay, I'm like, why did they call this a touchdown? Like, is it somehow a touchdown because he kicked the pylon?
The pylon, I can tell you right now, the pylon
saying,
has absolutely nothing to do with it.
I know it doesn't count as him getting the second foot down. So I don't know where they said he got the right foot down, but I mean, okay.
I don't know. It's a phantom, but I mean, the bright side for the Bears is you're in another situation where like you have a beatable team coming up on Thursday Night Football against the Commanders.
At this point, I don't know if I want them. I may just want them to go with the Lions or actually become the losingest team in NFL history and just go 0-17 at this point. What's the point of winning games?
That's true. I gotta
be honest.
That's true.
I know they won't purposely try, but I don't know if I actually want them to start winning because, again, then it will just mess up draft picks.
We'll get into this conversation later on in the week or in the following weeks because we have more teams to cover. But what happens? And I don't want you to answer this now. I'm just going to float it out there just to, this is a rhetorical question that will be answered in the later weeks. If the Bears lose, but Justin Fields plays decently well, then what do? Then the situation in Chicago gets real interesting.
I have an answer to that, but again, we'll talk about that in the future.
Yeah, because that'll be more relevant, like as we get a clearer picture.
Yeah.
The Bears going to Washington on Thursday Night Football. The Broncos will turn around and host the New York Jets. So that will be an interesting matchup as well. We got to move on. Next, we're going to head to London, where the Falcons lost to the Jaguars 7-23.
What a surprise. The Jaguars won in London.
The Jaguars are basically London's home team, but like they also won in Andy's room, which that was an experiment that the NFL tried. I didn't watch that broadcast for reasons. The animation was a little bit strange.
I had no real desire to, I got to be honest.
Yeah.
It was goofy. I mean, to me, kind of a little bit impressive of what they were able to do in real time, but still a little bit weird. Like, I don't know why they thought that would be more watchable or even, I mean, it's creative, no doubt. I just don't know why they thought that might be actually appealing to most NFL audiences. But
I mean, plus for creativity, minus for execution, in my humble opinion, because like I kind of compared it to the Nickelodeon broadcasts. I didn't really watch it. I honestly
think it was kind of almost worse than the Nickelodeon broadcast, but I also didn't watch those either. So I'm comparing two things that I never really saw.
Yeah, good point. The actual game, though, the Falcons didn't look great on offense.
Desmond Ritter's not the answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there is a solid NFL starter in there somewhere for Desmond Ridder, but we haven't seen it. And if he continues to not show it, I think he just might have to move on to Taylor Heineke. Which I mean, Heineke to the rescue is not a bad contingency.
No, it really isn't. We've talked about it before, and the question I pose is how long before we start the free Bijan movement?
Yeah, I
think he looks great.
Well, free Kyle Pitts. He wasn't even the most prominent tight end. The leading receiver in the game was Jonnu Smith.
The leading receiver as a tight end on the season is now Jonnu Smith. He's already overtaken Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, 6th
overall pick. 15 receptions on 20 targets for like a little over 200 yards for Jonnu Smith. Whereas I think Kyle Pitts has 11 targets or 11 receptions for a little under 200. So
that is frightening.
It is. I mean, we've talked about it before. I get that the talent's there. I don't know if it's just that he has never really found his footing within the system, but I don't think Kyle Pitts will ever look good not consistently good in a Falcons uniform. Maybe he can get a fresh start somewhere else and be good, but there's also a chance that he goes somewhere else and he just never regains his footing.
That very well may be the case. The Falcons have some work to do, hosting the red hot Houston Texans next week and the Jacksonville Jaguars, who it was nice to see them get a win, get back in the victory column. But, it doesn't get any easier because they're going to Buffalo, another team that's playing really, really well.
Really good. Yeah.
And speaking of those Buffalo Bills, oh boy, did they give the Dolphins a much needed
A
humbling
shellacking.
in a 48-20. You're right, schlacking. And when the story was who's going to stop the Dolphins, who's going to stop this dynamic offense, who's going to stop all these weapons?
Bill said, that's me.
Yeah, the Bills absolutely did. And the Bills goes, hey, here's our offense. Josh Allen, throw to Stephon Diggs, who had himself a day going for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah. It seems like Stephon Diggs is just did what he wants out on the, and that poor cornerback that they just continually picked on. I mean, really not much you can do except for, I don't know, make the adjustment in game, but
that would be the goal. I think
wasn't executed.
I think the biggest glaring thing for, I would say, the Dolphins and the Dolphins defense is not only did you give up 48 to the Bills, but you did so without making them run the ball basically at all.
Yeah, they didn't
really get anything going in the run game, and they still put 48 on your head. Josh Allen was like, he did everything in that game that he needed to. He made all the right decisions, all the right throws. Stephon Diggs, obviously, we talked about, was just absolutely cooking him.
Yeah, but 48 points. Josh Allen only threw 25 passes and completed 21 of them. Like that is darn impressive. And I think for the Dolphins, how explosive their offense was. Their leading receiver, not Tyreek Hill, not either of the running backs, but Braxton Berrios.
In terms of receptions, yes.
Miami Hurricanes legend Braxton Berrios. That
I mean,
is strange.
But here's the thing: you can see you can very well see games like this when you have defenses that start to hyper focus on your stars. It opened up the game a little bit more for him, especially in the slot and whatnot, which is why he had 6 receptions only for 43 yards, whereas you had some of the bigger gainers, and Jalen Waddle had 4 for 46 and Tyreek had 3 for 58. But again, when you put focus on those guys, it opens up the world for Braxton Berrios. Now, great that he led the team in receptions, but if the Dolphins want to have more success, believe it or not, they actually need more out of Braxton Berrios if they're going to focus so much on Tyreek and Jalen Waddle.
I'm in. I like Braxton Berrios.
Then you need to get more out of that guy that does step up. So great to see him get 6 receptions and end up finding the end zone. But if they're going to put up more than 20 and actually make this a competitive game, they need Braxton Berrios to have like a breakout game type thing, like a truly big breakout. And they just didn't really get that. I mean, I'm very curious to see where the world of the Dolphins backfield is going to go, with A-Chain getting another 2 touchdowns and them actually not using Mostert almost at all. So that's going to be interesting to watch going forward, where they continue to try to run both. Has A-Chain kind of snatched the job, even though Mostert did really, really well in the first couple of weeks? I don't know, but if they can keep both of them healthy, they certainly have their options.
Yeah, if you get the thunder and lightning with Mostert and A-Chain, I mean, we didn't even highlight the fact that A-Chain went for over 100 yards on the ground on 8 carries, still as dynamic as ever. I think the main takeaway that we have from this Dolphins-Bills game is that the Buffalo Bills showed that the Miami Dolphins are not invincible. They are not this juggernaut, mastermind, historic offense that everybody thought they were. Tua for MVP. I said it last week. I'm going to say it again.
Slow it down a bit.
Let's pump the brakes. I'm not putting any money on it, although I bet are some people.
He didn't look terrible. I mean, he threw the 1 interception. He still threw for almost 300 yards. He only found the end zone once in the air. If that's his bad game, I mean, he still belongs in the MVP conversation.
Absolutely.
Now, is he the front runner anymore? No, probably not. But also, as we'll get into, Mahomes didn't have 2 star-studded of a game himself. So
yeah, and we'll get to that later. But I think for Tua, this is more of like a regression to the mean as people start to figure out the Dolphins, and there's still a long season to go. So you really, really never know. We mentioned the Bills, they're playing the Jaguars. The Dolphins, they stay at home against the New York Giants, which should be another opportunity for the Dolphins to punish a rather limping team. Yeah. Next game we have to go to is the Baltimore Ravens going into Cleveland and the dog pound and absolutely sticking it to the Browns 28-3. The big thing, the absence of Deshaun Watson, which gave Dorian Thompson-Robinson his first start, and he looked like he had his first NFL start. Yeah. You ask him to throw the ball 36 times for only 121 yards, resulting in no tuds and 3 picks. Meanwhile, on the other side, you saw what a good quarterback looks like, as Lamar Jackson is. He was really efficient. He totaled 4 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 2 on the
Didn't
ground.
have to throw very much.
No, but 15 of 19 for 186 ain't a bad stat line
Well,
either.
and part of that's definitely game script as well. When they went up early and stayed up, they were able to run the ball a lot more. Lamar himself obviously ran a decent amount to get those 2 rushing scores. And they used Gus Edwards a decent amount, 15 carries for 48 yards. So overall, it was also very good to see them continue to get Mark Andrews back involved. The Ravens are the best versions of the Ravens when they get Mark Andrews and just their tight ends in general involved. That is the best Ravens that we have always seen, is when they use their tight ends. That's what they're known for. So they didn't have to do a whole lot in this one because obviously the Browns didn't really have a lot going for them.
Yeah, I don't think there's really too much to say and really too much to overcomplicate, except for the Baltimore Ravens look like
they were the better team
in the AFC North by a country mile, and the Cleveland Browns looked like a team without their starting quarterback that really didn't know what to do. Thankfully for the Browns, they have a bye week coming up, and the Ravens, they will look to continue their momentum going to Pittsburgh, even though the Steelers haven't looked very good. That is a rivalry game and one of the most intense
you never know what
rivalries in the
happens.
NFL. So you kind of got to throw like past expectations aside, because I know the Steelers are gearing up for Raven week and the Ravens are gearing up for Steeler week. So that'll be a fun battle to see next week. In other AFC North news, the Cincinnati Bengals are sliding deeper and deeper into that abyss where a potential dream season is just turning into a nightmare. Let the Tennessee Titans run all over them 27-3.
That ain't right.
There's a few places to start. I'll start with the fact that Derrick Henry looked like he turned the clock back a few years and looked like 2000 rusher Derrick Henry, 22 carries, 122 yards and a touchdown. And he also had a passing touchdown. So this looked like the Titans team that could do whatever they want when they were running through Derrick Henry. Yeah. Rather, that's a result of the Bengals defense not being very good, but the Titans certainly came out and, Ryan Tannehill looked like the game manager that he needed to be, and you let Derrick Henry be the focal point and do Derrick Henry things.
And that's exactly what they can do when they get the run game going. And it's a lot of teams, it ain't going to work like that anymore. In this game, they were able to do whatever they wanted. So again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. You are not in a good situation when you make Ryan Tannehill look palpable. And they did. And the big part of it was that the Bengals could not get anything really going on offense. So they were putting their defense in not great situations and allowing them to essentially, once the momentum once the ball started rolling, the Bengals could really do nothing to stop it. I don't know what it's going to take, because they're not all that like banged up other than literally just Joe Burrow.
Well, you know what it's going to take? It's going to take Joe Burrow getting healthy, because this injured Joe Burrow is not the top 5 Joe Burrow that we expected. And there's some people that are even saying that Joe Burrow may be on track for like another major injury, that this is like Andrew Luck type scenario that they're doing for the Bengals. And
for his sake, I hope not.
No, for his sake, I hope not. I think they just need to sit Joe Burrow down until he gets 100% healthy. But then again, the Bengals don't have a good backup. They have an undrafted free agent rookie as their lone other quarterback. So that's the lack of preparation
for a team
on the Bengals part. Yeah. It also doesn't help that T. Higgins is battling injury. That is another area that is banged up. But not going to put this on Joe Burrow. However, the offensive line can't protect Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow can't move around. His reads haven't been nearly as good. He isn't processing the game nearly as fast as we're accustomed to him being. I think Joe Burrow's game relies a little bit more on his natural athleticism than we were led to believe, which isn't a bad thing. It just means that like playing hurt with that strained calf really handcuffs what Joe Burrow can do. And the Joe Burrow that we're seeing right now is, I wouldn't even say a top 15 or a top 20 quarterback in the NFL.
No, now he has not looked like one.
But it's not unreasonable to say, like, that doesn't mean that Joe Burrow can't become that top 5 quarterback. Again,
Yeah.
he just won't be that top 5 guy with a hurt calf. He needs to be 100%. And I, I would suggest that the Bengals rest him before something catastrophic happens, and that ruins their season.
Yeah. I mean, right now though, they're on track for their season already being plenty ruined as it is. So it's like, are you willing to kind of give up a little bit on this season to protect the outlook of your franchise, or are you going to run Joe Burrow into the ground and potentially have him miss extended time if it's bad enough, even potentially into next season? I think
that's not just the $1 million question. That's the $260 million question.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that you gave him that long-term extension, you got to start thinking about his future, my guy. And you got to think about protecting him, which guess what? They failed to do. So anything more on the situation? Because it's really sad to see.
The one other thing that I'll say is you talked about, Joe Burrow's game kind of revolving a little bit more around his natural athleticism than we may have been led to believe. And I agree, except for the fact that I think it would be an entirely different situation if he had an offensive line. If he had an offensive line, I think he wouldn't have to rely on his natural athleticism nearly as much. But because of the situation he's in, he doesn't have a choice. So now that because his offensive line isn't protecting him, and now that he can't do some of the magical escapist Joe Burrow stuff that he has done to be as good as he is, that's what's causing the main issue here. So yes, the solution is still him getting healthy, but also the solution is continuing to actually do something to help that offensive line. They've done little patch jobs here and there, but it has not been enough to stop the flood that is the issues with the cohesiveness of that offensive line.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thankfully for the Bengals, what was once thought of as a layup now turns into a lot more competitive match with how the Cardinals are playing, and that's a road game at Arizona. So I don't want to say this is a test for the Bengals, but it really is a test for the Bengals.
Can they show up?
On the other side, the Titans have a divisional matchup at Indianapolis, so that should be a fun one.
The good old 2-2 AFC South.
Woohoo! The entire AFC South at 2-2. Next up, we will travel to Indianapolis to talk about the Rams and the Colts. The Rams were up big early, and then Anthony Richardson and the Colts came storming back. Eventually forcing overtime until Puka Nacua called game, walk-off TD, which was actually his first. Guy has 500 receiving yards, only 1 receiving touchdown, which I think is wild from both a statistical and fantasy perspective, just how impressive this guy has been. And if you picked him up off of the waiver wire, you're feeling very, very good about yourself, and you're feeling very, very galaxy brained, just universe brained right there. Just the largest, biggest brain that you can think of for picking up Puka Nacua. That is what you should feel.
I'm starting to think that you may have picked him up in fantasy, given
in a few places.
Talking about the managers of Puka Nacua. But yeah, no, he's been fantastic.
In a few places. I picked him up in a few spots, but
the fact that he is finally able to find the end zone obviously boosts him continuously. The big talk that everybody wants to know, and I'm sure obviously you feel the exact same way, is what is the relationship going to look like with Cooper Kupp coming back? And my opinion on this is I think this opens the door for that passing offense to just be even better, because now Puka becomes an extremely strong number 2 option that obviously, as we've talked about, plays in different parts of the field than Cooper Kupp. So it's not like he's just without a position now or has to come in and some of the times that Kupp's out. You put both of those guys out here, and now you give again, healthy Stafford the ability to find whatever targets he likes. And now you've given him 2 of his targets that he's found to like very, very much. And I really think it could be interesting. I don't think he may necessarily receive such the volume that he has in these first 4 weeks, but I still see him as a very valuable receiver, not only in NFL terms, but fantasy terms as well.
I absolutely agree. Look, you don't put up historically great numbers through your first 4 NFL games
as a rookie.
Yeah, and go, hey, back to the bench, deuces. No. And like a Sean McVay offense has been able to carry 2, if not 3 relevant receivers. I remember back when Jared Goff was going, hey, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, bing, bang, boom. Now you have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua that can just open the lane up for whoever, and you have a better quarterback because Matthew Stafford is still that dude. So endless possibilities for the Rams, and you got to feel pretty good about yourself, like where you're at 2-2. On the other side, the Colts are also feeling good about themselves because they have a QB. Anthony Richardson can prove that he is the real deal as he continues to develop and grow. This has been an excellent 4-game showing for him. And
for starters, for starting out, absolutely. I mean,
look, I'm going to stick to my
about
guns. 11 for 25, couldn't care less. The athleticism, the dynamic play, the arm strength, the arm talent, the ability to impact the game in both the passing and the running game, the leadership. The Colts have their guy, and it's such a breath of fresh air. Now you potentially get Jonathan Taylor back. They're saying he will probably return to practice.
That's supposedly the word. It's supposedly the word. We'll see what actually comes of it.
Bird is the word, Tim.
That it is, but
don't you know about the bird? Colts, everybody knows that the bird is the word.
Yeah. You are a special one.
Yeah, good comeback there, bud.
Don't worry about it. But for the Colts, like Anthony Richardson, he's shown the flashes that you would like to see out of a rookie in his first.
He's looked the part.
I think, yes, the big thing now is, and as he continues to grow, is working on the consistency. Because if he can make his decision making more consistent, if he can make his mechanics and all that stuff just learn more and more, he can absolutely flourish into a star quarterback in this league because his athleticism is off the freaking charts. The other thing is, again, staying healthy. Because we know how much running quarterbacks can get themselves in trouble and how he has already gotten himself into trouble. But the one, and I'm sure everybody who paid attention to social media or just the NFL in general this weekend saw the clip of him essentially staring down Aaron Donald coming straight at him and jump float passing a ball like 35-40 yards to Alec Pierce right on the money with a defensive pass interference.
That's ballsy. That's really ballsy.
Which it's not only ballsy, but it's a hell of a throw when it comes to just the actual arm talent that it takes to face that pressure and then put that type of pass, not standing flat-footed. He literally jumped and threw it. So as we've said, the arm talent's absolutely there. He'll only continue to grow and get better and better.
The Rams at 2-2 will play host to the Philadelphia Eagles. And like we said, the Colts and the Titans, that AFC South divisional showdown. Next up, we're going to talk about an NFC South matchup between the Buccaneers and the Saints, where Baker outdueled an ailing Derek Carr, which in the aggregate really isn't that surprising. 26-9, Derek Carr tried to come back nursing that shoulder injury to that AC joint, and you asked him to throw the ball 37 times because they were playing from behind the whole time. And, the offense really wasn't there. 3 field goals is all you can get. And Baker Mayfield looked like Himmy. He went in that chip and dipped it and ate it, and it was delicious. And he had himself a day. 25 of 32, 246, 3 touchdowns and an interception. 93 QBR, which is out of 100, was really, really impressive.
Crazy.
Especially losing Mike Evans in the middle of the game. Chris Godwin stepped up, and we remember that he is also a really good wide receiver with 8 catches for 114 yards. So Baker and the Bucs had themselves a day. On the other side, I think a byproduct of that Carr injury meant Alvin Kamara got to eat 13 receptions, 14 targets. He is very much back from suspension and doing Alvin Kamara things, and another galaxy brain draft of Alvin Kamara. If you did draft him, I may or may not have drafted him in a few places. But then again, I have like umpteen million leagues. So like, who don't I have? So I guess I can like call myself a galaxy brain for like at least one scenario. So that's how you debunk the system, baby. Let's go. Anyways, Tim, what you got on this game?
Yeah, when it comes down to it, I mean, I don't know the ceiling that the Saints have until they get Derek Carr healthy. So I don't know if the option is go with Jameis for a week. Because, I mean, in this game, Jameis came in, threw a pass, and it was an interception.
Jameis. We love you so.
One interception. So it's great for them that Kamara is back. He will be a great asset towards them, especially, for maintaining a better balanced offense. For the Buccaneers, I mean, Baker looks great. They're 3-1. it's a hell of a lot better than basically everyone projected for the Buccaneers to be at. So you cannot complain. Biggest thing is making sure Mike Evans is healthy and that they can, actually keep him, because obviously he's super valuable to that offense. But Chris Godwin's still that guy. So, in terms of him being the number one guy, you could be in a lot worse place than that. So Buccaneers have got a lot of things to be happy about.
And they got a good rest coming up ahead of them with the bye. Meanwhile, the Saints will travel to New England to play the Patriots. Then we'll travel to the city of brotherly love, where the Eagles beat the Commanders 34-31 in overtime. I think the big thing that I took away from this game is if you have the opportunity to win the game, you go for two. I don't care how many times John Harbaugh and the Ravens have failed at it. I will die on that hill of being aggressive rather than being safe, because at least you can say you went for it. And also, I just have no faith that poor man's Baker Mayfield and Sam Howell can really generate a game-winning drive. He had a chance in overtime. You could have done it. You didn't do it. It doesn't matter to me that Sam Howell, he's in his fifth start. He hung with the Eagles. You know what he gave you? A big old fat L. And
I think when it comes,
go ahead.
Go for it. To me, when it comes down to it, is when you know that you are the worst team in this game, and like you said, you have one play, 2-point conversion to steal the game, because you know that, like, no matter how well they played to keep up with them, they shouldn't win this game. You have to take it. Don't leave it up to a 0-0 slate overtime, that now all of a sudden it's anybody's game and you've given them, a chance at life again. You have them on the ropes. Either go for the KO or you end up going home. Regardless, the fact that they were there, great. But yeah, I think it takes the tough decision of being able to go for it. I think that really would make the big difference there.
Especially to me, when the only passing touchdown that Sam Howell had was that last second touchdown.
Yeah.
That was the most momentum that offense had produced. Why not stick with it?
Just ride it. It's the most momentum they truly had all game. When you make a drive like that and score that last second touchdown, everything is riding on that. So you've got the Eagles reeling. They don't know what to do. Take advantage of that.
There are no moral victories in the NFL. You either win or you don't. The Eagles,
believe me, Eagles do not care that 4-0 is one of them being an overtime victory. They see 4-0.
Yeah. If they see a goose egg in that loss column, you really think they care if it's by 3 points or 30 points? Absolutely not. You have to find a way to win the game. And even the Jalen Hurts didn't quite play his best game.
No, not really.
We've seen better from Jalen Hurts. A lot of
the
that
stat line still looks solid, but overall, it's like it didn't feel.
Find AJ Brown, really. Find AJ Brown. 9 catches, 175, 2 touchdowns, and yet another post-game drug test, which really, again, the NFL drug tested him again after having a monster game. We get it. AJ Brown is a physical freak of nature, and he's arguably a top 5 receiver in this league. Fine. We get it. He's good. You don't have to drug test him every time he does something extraordinary.
It's not going to change.
Nope. But the Commanders will have an excellent opportunity to go to 3-2 when they play the Chicago Bears. And the Eagles will look to stay unbeaten when they travel to play the Rams. Next up, we'll go to the battle of winless teams, the actual battle of winless teams. Broncos and Bears were something much greater, but Vikings and Panthers is just a battle of blech, and that is exactly
what a pretty game.
But hey, somebody won, and the Vikings did. Woohoo! They won a technical one-score game. Yay! Good for them. 21-13.
I find it hilarious that Kirk Cousins plays his worst statistical game by far this entire season, and this is the one they're able to win. Throws a 99-yard pick six, overall 12 for 19, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Like, that's just, but they did what they needed to do because the Panthers just looked worse.
I think it makes you thankful that the Panthers are really, really bad. And I know Bears fans like yourself are thankful that the Panthers are really, really bad because of
I'll
that
take it.
sweet draft capital. Um, I don't think this game necessarily revealed anything new. With the
There's just
Vikings,
two teams that we knew that weren't very good, and one of them played slightly worse than the other one.
yeah, the Vikings, I so wish they should be an 0-4 team, but they got gift wrapped a win by, hey, Jay Jetta's out there somewhere. Yoink. Extend that man, because if you don't, he's going to go get a bag somewhere else. And the Panthers just have a really young quarterback with a lot of veteran wide receivers and skill players, and trust me, the Panthers are working on
combo
it.
backfield of Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders that neither did absolutely anything in that game.
The Panthers are working on it, though. They're working on trading for a star wide receiver. So we'll see if something comes in the coming days.
I mean, it's almost like they had a star wide receiver, but
I wonder what happened to it. They go play Detroit at their place, and the Vikings have fun, even if it's at home, against Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. And guess what? We'll get to it later. They're pissed. They're not going to be happy, but we have a few more games to get to before that. The Texans beating the crap out of the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-6. I think we were wrong about CJ Stroud. Is it fair to say that we were wrong about CJ Stroud? I think we were wrong about CJ Stroud because he looked excellent.
Totally fair.
Yet again. 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, the guy's just throwing it all over the place, and it's not like he really has much to work with. He's making Nico Collins look excellent. 7 catches, 168 yards. Robert Woods is almost looking resurgent. Tank Dell, I had a feeling Tank Dell was going to be good, but not because the quarterback is elevating him. I mean, CJ Stroud looks like he's been doing this for a long time. It's not even like the line is very good. It's just patchwork. And yet, screw it. We'll just go zing, 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 zing. I do think this shows some problems with Pittsburgh. The fact that you were only able to score 6 points and Kenny Pickett left the game not healthy.
Yep.
I think
they're reeling.
I think that winning streak may come to an end.
If I predict it so many times, eventually it's going to happen.
That's true. There is a name for a law in psychology for that somewhere. If you keep predicting it, eventually it is bound to happen. But when the highlight of your offense is Najee Harris and most people are pushing him into the running back grave already, that's a big old problem. And I mean, firing Canada would be an awesome solution.
Steelers fans would literally riot in the streets out of pure joy.
Dude, Matt Canada is to the Steelers offense as Joe Barry is to the Packers defense, all right?
Can you imagine a team that had those two coordinators?
Dude, 2 coordinators that just need to go. Yeah, because changes need to be made. And are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to make them? Who knows? But wouldn't it be the funniest thing ever if Mitch Trubisky was the shot in the arm that the Steelers needed and just a quarterback controversy happened between Mitch and Pickett? That would...
To be honest, I don't see it, but it would be funny.
Well, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing to happen all year. I mean, there were people that thought the Vikings were going to be good and run the NFC North. And guess what? There's no competition for the Lions. There are people that thought that CJ Stroud was going to be bad because the Wonderlic convinced people that he was dumb. All right. Like
that and the history of Ohio State quarterbacks. I'd say the combination of both of those two stigmas.
Well, you know what? If you keep pumping out quarterbacks, eventually one is going to be
one
good.
Of them's got to be good.
One of them's got to be good. It just wasn't Justin Fields. It was
overall
CJ Stroud.
The Steelers have some serious issues, and I wonder what it's going to take to see some serious change in response to that. But for the Texans, I'm impressed with DeMeco Ryans. I'm impressed with how that offense looks, and right now they look like a solid team that can compete in a, obviously, as we talked about, extremely wide open AFC South.
They're ahead of schedule, and it has been fun to watch. The Texans finally, for the first time in their history, seem like they have a franchise quarterback. They're going to go to Atlanta to see if they can advance to 3-2. Meanwhile, the Steelers, they're preparing for Raven Week as they host Baltimore. The next game, we're going to talk about an AFC West showdown where Tim, your Purdue guy, Aiden O'Connell,
first career start.
The start. and he
Wasn't
looked
too pretty, but
he looked like he was having his first career start. Although I will say he looked better than Dorian Thompson-Robinson. For his first
oh,
NFL game, there's really not much more you can do, especially when Khalil Mack sacks you 6 times.
let's just say Khalil Mack was out for vengeance. And boy, did he find it, especially given the fact that the Raiders had seemingly no semblance of an offensive line, and you put out a rookie quarterback who is known for his inability to scramble. So overall, it was
Aiden
not
O'Connell's
a
a definition
good.
of a pocket passer.
Yes. And that's one of the things that I personally noticed. That, a lot of people talk like, oh my gosh, he fumbled the ball, he turned the ball over too much. Like, yes, I get it. It's not what you want to do. First of all, I severely dislike Josh McDaniels dogging his rookie quarterback in his first career start in a post-game press conference.
Me
Like
too.
you didn't like he put him into a position to succeed. But I do not hate what I saw out of Aiden O'Connell. Obviously, it wasn't great. They still put up 17. They still made it a game late. But granted, I think if you give Aiden O'Connell more of an offensive line and essentially just give him a little bit more time in the pocket, you'll play to his strengths. You'll allow him to find his receivers to go and do what he does well. So I really hope, we don't know what will happen. I really hope he gets the start this next week, because I would like to see him get another chance and see, what could be different. But it all depends on how Jimmy Garoppolo is and, what they're feeling. I kind of doubt it will happen. I would like to see it though.
I mean, Tim, you turn into a Raiders fan if Aiden O'Connell gets the start at home against the Packers on Monday Night Football. I mean, I would certainly like to see it. The one thing I think Aiden O'Connell did a great job of is getting the ball to his stars. Devontae Adams saw 13 targets. Josh Jacobs, who is not known as a receiving back, saw 11 targets. So, like, the when in doubt strategy of getting it to your best players, you find 8, find 17, get it to them. Whether Garoppolo will be ready or Aiden O'Connell will have to go remains to be seen. On the other side with the Chargers, they came away with the win, but at what cost? Justin Herbert did not have his best game ever. Whether the fractured finger on his left hand had much to do with that, I'm not sure. I mean, it's tough playing hurt, even if it's something as minor as like the other hand.
The non-dominant hand, yeah.
It was enough though, and that's really what mattered. You got the win.
It was enough. You're trying to adjust to the season now without Mike Williams. You still don't have Eckler back, so they were still running with Joshua Kelly, who looked better than he had in the last couple, but still not fantastic. So I mean, yeah, they did what they needed to do. They got Josh Palmer involved a decent amount, so he's still a decent part of that offense when he can slide into that number 2 slot. But again, yeah, it overall wasn't that pretty, but like we said, whatever it takes to get a win, I guarantee you they will take that win.
Especially going into the bye week, because now it has an opportunity to get
they
Austin
can finally
Eckler
get
healthy.
Austin Eckler healthy. Yes, that's what it comes down to, because they are a wildly different team when he is healthy, both in how they can run the ball, but also how do they utilize the pass game because of how avid of a receiving back that he is.
Wow, you're really sold on the Austin Eckler game breaker train.
I've been watching it for the past couple of years, as I have drafted him at almost every opportunity in fantasy football. So I know very well how Austin Eckler can affect Chargers play.
Hey, fair enough. The next game we have is the Cowboys absolutely beating the crap out of New England Patriots. And
Bill Belichick's worst loss of his career.
Look, man, these games that are blowouts, there's not much to be said. A really good team plays a really bad team, and the really good
Patriots
team wins. It really says something when Mac Jones gets benched for other Mac Jones. And guess what?
For Mac Jones Light.
Mac Jones Light didn't play much better than Mac Jones. So
he didn't get much time, but no, he didn't play that well.
I think what you saw is the Cowboys taking care of business how they needed to. You didn't need Dak Prescott doing much. 28 of 34. He took care of the ball, didn't turn it over. Didn't need much out of Tony Pollard. He spread the ball around, especially to guys like Jake Ferguson, 7 of 7 for
Like, he
77.
loves his tight ends. That has been known when Dalton Schultz was there. That has
Absolutely.
continued to be known even with a guy that you would maybe consider to be not quite as talented as Dalton Schultz. He will find his tight ends no matter what. I don't know if that's the system or if that's just, what Dak Prescott looks for. But yeah, he looks very solid. Flat out, the Patriots were just outmatched.
Dude, all I got to say is JJ McCarthy, you are a Patriot because Mac Jones is not the answer. And lucky for Bill Belichick, the GM, he better start his scouting on next year's quarterback class because he
Quite a few to choose from.
Doesn't have a quarterback on that roster that can make a difference. But if he picks the right one, that is a great future foundation. But with that roster and how bad the Patriots looked this year,
They don't look pretty.
Nope. We'll see how good the Cowboys really are, though, because on Sunday Night Football, they play the 49ers. Oh,
that's going to be a
boy.
battle.
A good Sunday night game. I can't wait for that. On the other side, the Patriots will host the Saints in a far less enticing and exciting game. After that, the Cardinals lost to the very same 49ers, 35-16. And the main takeaway from that is I'm ready to catapult Christian McCaffrey into the MVP conversation. He
has been playing that well.
That he is that good in the running game, in the receiving game. He's a game changer. He's the 49ers' best offensive player in an offense full of talented players. And what a trade acquisition that was when the Niners originally traded for him. If you had to hand the MVP to a non-quarterback, I would just say here, give it to Christian McCaffrey, Mr. Do-It-All, finding the end zone no matter what, getting points for your team, and just overall being that dude.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a game changer and a game breaker. He is exactly that because he's seemingly impossible to game plan around, especially when you have so much talent around him. And we already saw how elite he was in Carolina before the trade, and that was with not a whole lot of help for the most part. And here, where they have guys left and right to work with, who do you prepare for? I mean, do you try to prepare for Christian McCaffrey and let yourself get lit up underneath by Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, all those guys? Or do you try to prepare for the passing game and just get lit up, quite frankly, all around? Because in this game, I mean, the Cardinals defense, I don't think there was any, stretch of the imagination where they really keep up with the 49ers offense.
Not at all.
But I mean, they clearly showed it. I mean, Brock Purdy was literally almost perfect, going 20 for 21 for 283 yards and a touchdown in the air.
Purdy, man. I'm just gonna give up talking about whether Brock Purdy is good or not, because quite frankly,
he's
at this
exactly
point,
what they need him to be. That's all that matters.
I don't really care. And evaluating whether Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, actually, I'm convinced I could quarterback in Kyle Shanahan's offense if I just
I'm saying.
If I just learn
exactly
the playbook.
What they need.
So you don't need uber amounts of talent. You just need to be a leader and have the poise to command the guys around you. And Brock Purdy,
and that's what he has. He has poise, he has swagger, and he has the ability to essentially just analyze, stay calm in any situation, and just make a decision. Let the talent around you be what it is.
Yeah.
Just get it to them.
Yeah, exactly. And look, it is what it is, man. Brock Purdy doesn't have the greatest physical gifts in the world. Gets a lot out of them, though, but you don't really need it. And before we move to the Sunday night game, Josh Dobbs, I think he might as well
just doing it.
I think he's playing for his job. He looks like he's playing for his job, even with Kyler Murray on the mend. And if Kyler Murray doesn't come back, this is an awesome audition tape for Josh Dobbs to latch on somewhere and get himself another job as a starter, if not a backup, because he's been really impressive. A lot better than I thought he was.
100%. I did not believe in this Arizona Cardinals offense at all with Kyler out. Really, even with Kyler back in, I really wasn't very high on what they could do. But he has made the most of his opportunity, and the guys that he's got. Obviously, you didn't get a ton out of the run game, but not particularly bad. But again, when you're in a game script like that, they had to pass the ball a bunch. He threw the ball 41 times, didn't turn the ball over, so. Honestly, it's about as much as you can ask for Josh Dobbs against the 49ers defense.
Yeah.
He looked solid.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
There's a lot of quarterbacks in this league that do not look solid when they come up against the 49ers defense. So
1,000%. Niners, Cowboys, Sunday Night Football. We already talked about it. And as we mentioned earlier, the Cardinals have the opportunity to drive the dagger into the Bengals season at home. Now we're going to go to the Sunday night game where the Jets hung with the Chiefs, but came up short in a 23-20 loss with a certain pop culture superstar in the stands that I will not talk about any further than this because shut up. I just care about football. Ryan Reynolds was there?
He was.
Oh, I thought he was busy coaching the Packers as Matt LaFleur's doppelganger.
I don't even think they look that much alike. That's another story, though.
Oh, well. I mean, hey, Matt LaFleur, good-looking dude, good-looking actor. Not about him, though. I always find a way to make this about my Packers. This isn't about my Packers. This is about the New York...
Packers, me, Purdue, we find our way.
This is a game where, like, the New York Packers almost beat the Super Bowl champions. And credit to Zach Wilson. He played well.
Yeah, he did.
Not a statement that I thought I would be saying, but, every dog has his day. We'll see if it's sustainable. I'm not worrying about that. What I will say is Zach Wilson outplayed Patrick Mahomes. You're goddamn right he did.
He didn't turn the ball over other than that fumble. I mean, and obviously it was super costly, and he obviously felt terrible about it. You saw the clips of the zoom in of him, that's on me, that's my bad.
But that's the growth, though, of him going...
Exactly.
Of him going, it's not my fault, to taking full responsibility. And that's really what you want to see. It's the leadership. It's the accountability. It's stepping up. It's Donna Kelsey being in the press box. So you already know Zach Wilson's about to go brazy on that football field. All right.
You're right. I mean, at the end of the day, I am very pleased to see the growth that he has had mentally, even more so than his play on the field. It absolutely is. And he's taking more responsibility. He knows what he needs to do, and he knows when he needs to be better. And at the end of the day, he did really well. And the one thing I've already forgotten the guy's name because that's how irrelevant he is, but there was a commentator post game that essentially tried to get Chris Jones to dog on Zach Wilson, and Chris Jones took the time to actually defend Zach Wilson, call him special, and say that they knew going in that this game was going to be a dogfight. So I really respect Chris Jones for that. But he's absolutely right. I mean, he's continuing to get better and better, and it's going to be interesting to see with this continuing, the Jets cementing that this is going to be his team. Where is he going to be able to take him? Because you had to see a lot of positives out of this game, 100%.
Absolutely. But I would be remiss if I said, because we did say earlier in this episode that no moral victories for the Commanders. I'm going to stick with the same way for the Jets. No moral victories in the NFL. You went home with the loss.
I'm just glad to see them moving in the right direction because, again, I would like to see them succeed. I would like to see them do better.
We can give Zach Wilson his due and also acknowledge that at the end of the day, you went home with an L. You're sitting at 1-3. It was a very winnable game. And now you got to regroup and go at Denver and play them. On the Kansas City Chiefs side, you think they're happy about this? Yes, they won. Yes, it was by 3 points, but Patrick Mahomes, the MVP, did not show up, did not play good under the lights. He was missing throws. There was miscommunications. There were interceptions. Should have been a third one.
Should have had a third one.
And I feel sorry for the next team that gets to play those guys. Oh, wait a minute. No, I don't. It's the Vikings.
and talk about an exposable defense for the Chiefs to really just annihilate on. They have got the Thanksgiving table set for them to feast.
I'm not a betting man, nor do I give gambling advice, but hammer Patrick Mahomes over on passing yards because I almost guarantee that will be a thing that he hits.
I believe it.
But we have one more game to cover, being the Monday night game, and we've been at this for a while. Is there really much to say other than, my God, the Seahawks defense looked absolutely menacing and monstrous, and get Daniel Jones some protection because it's really not his fault, and people are dogging him because he signed the big extension and that comes with big expectations. And so when it doesn't happen and Daniel Jones is running for his life and doesn't look nearly as great as $40 million a year tells him to, they're going to jump on him and call him ass. I'm looking right at you, Barstool Sports.
I'm tired of that narrative. Like, if you actually took the time to look at that game and look at the amount of time he had and the decisions that he had to make and the plays that he had to try to just pull literally just straight out of his ass, he had nothing that he could do. You're still in a Giants offense without Saquon Barkley. You still don't have a ton at the receiving position as a whole. And you're giving him no time to work. Daniel Jones, he is not like this complete wizard with the ball. You need to give him time, and you need to give him options, which in this game they gave them none. And I will have to say, full credit to the Seahawks defense for truly just taking over that game. But the Giants still need to be better. It's still inexcusable as an offensive line, as an offense in general. They have to be better.
I have compared Brian Dable to Hagrid. There is a reason why Hagrid is the caretaker and not the headmaster of Hogwarts. There have been good Brian Dable coaching jobs, and there are bad Brian Dable coaching jobs.
Yeah.
Monday night was a bad Brian Dable coaching job, and him being frustrated with Daniel Jones and like throwing the tablet near him, as I think the pot calling the kettle black in some certain situations. But the Giants are frustrated. They're 1-3. They have to go to Miami to play the Dolphins. It's not going to get much fun easier for them. So that road doesn't get much easier. And the Seahawks, they have a bye, so they get to rest up. But that's all we got for our week 4 recap in the NFL. We have so much other NFL content, including previews from each division and other recaps from earlier in the season, as well as other sports on the channel. So if you like sports ball, chances are we probably got it. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. Let us know what you want us to talk about next, and if you want more from us. But until next time, we out.